Philharmonic Association for the discredited cadet program. Yeah, on 2C, I don't consent to your consent decrees, and I don't consent to the way you run these meetings, and I don't consent to the outrageous attitudes that you have towards the public. You need to hear from us before you take action. You cut down your comment period on the drones and got a report before you took them in. So people don't consent to that. You don't have the consent of the governed to the kind of government you run in this city. And I think it's outrageous that you're refusing to listen to the comment I want to make. The idea that the Philharmonic Association, which is supposed to uplift people with classical music, is donating money to the police department. It should be the other way around. No, month after month, I've come here and commented on the money you get in addition to your outrageous budget, that you take more than half the money of the entire city of Los Angeles from the police department, and on top of that, week after week, without discussion, you take money from charitable organizations to feed the...
Okay, next speaker, any other speakers?
We have no other speakers.
Motion for approval of item number 2C. He had no time left because he was off topic, and I gave him no time.
I will move that.
Have a second?
Steve's off topic. Steve's off topic. Steve's off topic. Steve's off topic.
So let's go to item number 4D. Item 2D.
Item number 2D, Executive Director's verbal report to the status of the development of a policy regarding the release of video in critical incidents.
Mr. President, as an update, we are working with the Inspector General's office on reviewing policies from around the country and also with the City Attorney's office as to the current state of the law in California on video and how it can and when it can be released. And we would expect a draft policy before this body within 30 days.
Okay, any questions? Okay, let's move to item number...
We have public,
Oh, we got I'm sorry, public comment.
we have 4 comment cards. We have Mr. Novick, General Jeff, Tiffany Guerra, and Hamid Khan.
Okay. Mr. Novick?
I think that it's all well and good to wait for the suggestions regarding a policy on the release of video in critical incidents, but I want to point out that you've never released a video of Waukesha Wilson. You have hundreds of videos of critical incidents that you need to go back through and release to the public whenever this policy is adopted. You have a lot of deaths on your hands and blood in your hands to account for, and the video needs to be released as soon as possible and immediately and retroactively in all the cases that the LAPD has taken lives and done nothing about them. The city attorney has done nothing about them, the district attorney has done nothing about them, the police commissioner has done nothing about them. Occasionally you find them out of policy and you still do nothing about them. And if you have these videos, you have an archive of these videos going back for years of these incidents, and they need to be released immediately.
General Jeff, please.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Thank you. My name is General Jeff Scaro, community activist, and there's a lot that needs to be listed and identified in this actual report. Everything, we're talking about specifics, because there's a lot that we, the people, do not know that there's video of. So when it says, it only specifically talks about in critical instances, and how would we know? So, you know, we need full transparency, so it needs to be, in that process, it needs to be identified ahead of time so that we can be fully aware of what's going on. Also, as the previous speaker mentioned, instances of Waukesha Wilson, where we know there are critical instances, we are not fully aware of all the particular video access, video opportunities that are there. So how will we even know if there's actual video even available? It needs to, the language needs to specifically speak to body camera surveillance, you know, whether it's from buildings, from air support. You know, we need to know with all of this needs to be itemized and broken down, and we hope that this will be a thorough analysis in terms of a full, transparent policy, because this is something that's very important. And also, too, how long, once the video is available to we the people, how long will it be accessible to us? And also, too, if it's available, is it available for extraction from whatever database or service that will be provided for us. And also too, how much will it cost taxpayers in terms of will the department, have its own server, or will it contract out to a third-party server? Those are monies that are being accrued into this new program that will take away from we the people tax-paying dollars that could go towards something more positive for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Just to address some of the points you raised, all those comments and questions that you raised were very relevant to the drafting of the policy, and that's why we're taking our time to hopefully get it as close as possible to answering those questions. And much like the policy that is before us today related to the unmanned aerial devices, this policy will be presented for discussion. It will be then subject to a review period for a number of weeks to get additional comments and further revision, if appropriate, before it comes back to a final vote. So there will be plenty of opportunities for you to address those questions if you think they weren't answered in the initial policy.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Tiffany Guerra, followed by Hamid Khan.
So I just wanted to raise up how this body camera initiative was an example of how when there's a project that needs funding that you think is important, Steve Soboroff, you'll step in to use your power and privilege and connections to LA's most wealthy philanthropic organizations to get that project funded. And that's what white supremacy looks like. It's when white folks hoard power and privilege and leverage their position to divert funding not to the communities that need it most, but to city and community projects that they decide need funding, not what the community decides. When the body camera initiative needed funding to get going, you took action to get those funds raised, Steve Soboroff, but not when you hear from organizations like LA Can about how Skid Row needs access to the most basic human services.
Right.
No, the times we hear you step up is when you see an opportunity to divert more funding from LA's wealthy elites to the police. Since 2002, the Weingart Foundation, that you, Steve, have been on the board of for many years, has given over $700,000 to LAPD. But by the Foundation's own statement, grants are not to be made to organizations that discriminate against certain groups or individuals on the basis of race. So it confuses me as to how the Foundation can give any money at all to LAPD, a clearly established racist and murderous institution. Body cameras are not for the community. They are for the city in the name of liability. And so the Police Commission can pretend they are being proactive. They are also for the benefit of corporations like Sprint and Motorola, who have multi-million-dollar deals with the LAPD for the technology and storage of video footage, and whose people sit on the boards of police foundations nationwide making decisions about how police agencies spend their money. You could instead be giving that money to the community, but you are again choosing to fund the police.
Mr. Khan?
Before I make my comment, I just want to say that there's a lot of people still waiting to come in. So when 2E starts, we want to make sure that their public comment cards are accepted and not thrown out because.
Go ahead, Mr. Khan.
Yeah. So I want to lift this issue about the video release whole policy that is being undertaken. I think what's completely missing from the debate is the sheer expanse of what these technologies can do. We're speaking here about the body cameras and
I
talking
can't
about
hear you. Will you
video.
speak into the microphone? We can't hear
We're
us here.
speaking about the body cameras and speaking about the release of a video, but what's not being discussed, how body cameras are now increasingly being incorporated with real-time facial recognition, with biometrics technology, with artificial intelligence, and various other forms of technology. So when we talk about video release, what does that really mean? Does that mean that just a passing by video will be released? All the data that's all going to be collected as a result of these surveillance devices, which are going to be on cops 24/7, is that going to be released or not? Right? And we completely reject the use of body cameras. Temple University has come out with a whole study saying that police killings have gone up since body cameras have been instituted. And this is what is going on. Body cameras are being used over the last 3 years in the United States. Every 7 hours and 14 minutes, somebody is being killed by law enforcement in the United States. LAPD always just launches this in Skid Row, which is the most contained area anywhere in the city of Los Angeles. That is an occupied territory. That is where they use them as a laboratory to try these technologies. So let's not get fooled about the release of video. Let's be very clear that it's not only about the video, which is a minuscule amount. It's about gathering of the data. It's about stalking of our people. It's about tracing and tracking and monitor and going after those people. Thank you.